Hello and welcome to The Chaos of Scale, the podcast dedicated to helping scaling businesses navigate the human side of growth. I'm your host, Andy Golding, and today we're talking about whether we should be building our businesses as a sports team or a family. When we talk about culture and shaping our company culture or scaling our culture, we often have the family versus team debate, and today we're diving right in there. As always, I promise to leave you with at least one thing to think differently about in how you work with others, and at least one actionable step that you can take to show up as a rad or even more rad human at work. You know the drill. Please like, subscribe, share, and for some extra kudos and gratitude, please consider leaving a review. When people talk about company culture, especially in startups and scale-ups, there's often this tug of war that creeps in. Are we a family or are we a team? And for a long time, I was really firmly in the family camp. It sounded warm and supportive and loyal, like we're all in this together no matter what. And that's the magic of being a scrappy early stage business. That's what it feels like. We're all in this together and we have to kind of slog through this together. But over time, and the more that I've been immersed in the chaos of scale, understanding the complex and messy reality of scaling up, I've realized that the family analogy doesn't really hold up. Generally, families are associated with unconditional belonging, creating space for all of the individual family members. But businesses can't function that way. It's not sustainable for them to be that way. Unconditional belonging, lack of consequence or accountability, endless accommodation of personal idiosyncrasies, it just doesn't work. And trust me, the idealist in me is screaming at the fact that I'm actually saying this out loud. But in business, we have to make it about the business. You absolutely can make it about the business while simultaneously owning your humanity and leaning on kindness. It's entirely possible. But the people decisions that we make have to aid, enable, and empower business strategy. They can't just be because we like these people and we love these people. Unfortunately, we have to make it about the business. And when you're trying to move from that early scrappy, we slogged it out together stage into a scalable, sustainable, more grown up organization, the needs of your organization are changing as well. So your mindset kind of needs to go along with that. It can feel awkward and maybe a little bit brutal to admit that, but that early stage family vibe where everyone does everything and the lines are super blurry and the common goal is just survive, that's part of the magic that gets you off the ground, but it's not necessarily what gets you to the next level. Scaling demands structure, clarity, strategy, which is everything that we spoke about in episode 5, the ick of process, and how it can feel quite icky to admit that we need to formalize and grow up. But the same applies to who we bring with us on this journey to scale. And this can be a sad and uncomfortable reality to come to terms with, but sometimes the people who helped us get off the ground aren't necessarily the right people to help us get to scale or IPO. That ick of process and standardization and formalization, it's not for everyone, and that's okay. And it's not that you suddenly don't care about these people or that you don't have any loyalty or love anymore. It's more just about fit and impact. Remember, you have to make it about the business. So this is why I've moved from the family camp to the sports team camp. I've played on sports teams at world championships level, and no, they're absolutely not a family, but they have an immense magic that is uniquely their own. Because the best teams are built deliberately, with intention. Every single player is there for a reason. They have a role. They have clear opportunities for impact. They're judged on performance and how they gel with the rest of the team. They're not judged on sentiment or legacy just because they've been here since the beginning or because a lot of people like them. And it doesn't mean that there's no care or camaraderie. It just means that we care enough to expect excellence. In high-performing sports teams, we're all there for the same reason: to do the work to win the game, the tournament, the championship. We all know that if we don't pull our weight, there will be consequences. But we also know that the management and the coaches are on our side. They're there to help us improve and grow, not just as a unit, but individually as well. And this is why I love the sports team analogy, because it places responsibility for greatness, responsibility for results, as much on the players as it does on the management and coaches. The same as it should be in business. We need leaders to lead well and with impact. They need to grow their teams and individuals simultaneously to achieve objectives. If we break it down a bit, if we think about hiring, in a family, you don't really hire your family. You don't normally really get to choose. You get what you get and you either make it work or it drifts apart. But in a team, you intentionally and rigorously select for complementary skills. You intentionally and strategically build and fill a roster that gives you the best shot at success, which is exactly what you need when navigating the chaos of scale. When you're scaling, you don't just need brilliant people. You need people who play well with others, people who are comfortable in the chaos of scale, in those murky waters, who are comfortable to work with shifting priorities, goals that move so much they might as well have wheels. And something that I'd be remiss not to say is you have to be aware of brilliant jerks. The people who are absolutely crap to work with, but they're experts in their craft. They might help you win a few games, but they'll ruin the season and they'll ruin the team if left unchecked. And often, especially in scale-ups, I see us defaulting to hiring brilliant jerks because they'll solve the problem that we have now and they'll help us move past this. But at what cost? At what cost to the teams around them, to your culture? It's better to have a hole than an a-hole. It's cheesy, but it's true. When we're hiring and filling our teams in scale-ups, we have to have this future focus. You need to build for the team that will drive you forward. Build for the team that you need in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. If we shift from hiring and look at promotions and growth, well, in a family, hierarchy and ascension is most often about time served. Who's been around the longest? Who's the eldest? It's legacy. It's just the way that we do it in a family. But in a team, it should be about merit. It should be about who's performing, who's stepping up, who's delivering results. You earn your spot in that lineup, not because you've been there since day one, but because you're pushing the whole team forward. You're making a visible impact, and that's what deserves promotion. Performance. In a family, you can just coast along because you generally don't get kicked out of a family for not pulling your weight. But in a team, performance is the deal. It's what gets you on the field and it's what keeps you there. And that's not cold to say, that's just accountability. Because in scale-ups, accountability, keeping people accountable, is as important as caring about them. Every person's performance impacts everybody else's ability to win. One laggard in the team pulls the whole team down. And one laggard in the team whose lagging performance goes without consequence and without accountability, that needs to be dealt with. Do not underestimate the contagious impact of one person's poor performance on others. Deal with poor performance fast, deal with it kindly for the sake of the people being impacted by it most, their colleagues and their teammates. And now let's look at goodbyes, which is a complex and tricky one on all accounts, because in a family, in a lot of instances, goodbyes are unthinkable. You generally don't just cut family out or cut them off or fire your family. In some cases, it might be necessary to, but generally not so much. But in a team, you sometimes have to make that tough call to bench someone, to move people around, or to make space for a better fit. It doesn't mean that there's no love or respect. It just means that you're being honest about what the team needs now and in the future, not what it needed then. Make it about the business, make it about the team. And that's the crux of it. Scaling changes the game. The same people who helped you survive that startup edginess might not be the right people to help you thrive at scale. It's not betrayal, it's evolution. Netflix used to speak a lot about the art of good goodbyes, and it's entirely possible to part ways with people that no longer fit your need in positive ways and without burning bridges. In good goodbyes, you can show up as human, you can show up as adult. Don't bury yourselves or them in stupid bureaucracy that just leaves a bitter taste in everybody's mouth. Help them find their next. Give them generous support to move on. You never know where your paths might cross again and what opportunities might exist there. Being a sports team doesn't mean that we stop caring about each other. It means that we care enough to play to win, to hold each other accountable and to keep raising the bar. And if somebody no longer fits inside that, that's okay. We help them move on. The highly competitive world championship level teams that I was a part of had each other's backs in ways that I can't even explain. I never thought that that was possible, but we also held each other relentlessly accountable. And that combination of having each other's backs, but also holding each other accountable, drives performance and commitment to absolutely incredible levels. Because at the end of the day, you can love your team like a family, but you've got to run it like a team. Make it about the business. Your action item from today's episode is pause for quality. Consider your team or your organization. What is your lens on culture? Family or sports team? And then looking at where you are now versus where you're headed and what is going to help you get there. What can you reframe in your thinking about culture and people to help you get there? Thank you for joining us today. If you found value in this episode, please share it with a colleague who might be experiencing similar challenges and might get the same value that you did from listening. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and review wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Andy Golding. This is the Chaos of Scale. Remember, business growth is messy, but the human side doesn't have to be. Until next time.